What if the life you're living right now isn't the life you were meant to focus on? What if the real transformation doesn't start by changing what you do, but by changing what you seek? And what if becoming a new person begins with seeing everything from a completely different level? There's a shift described here that goes beyond behavior. It's not about trying harder, it's about thinking higher. If you have been raised with Christ, set your hearts on things above. That statement alone changes the direction of everything, because it's not telling you to escape life, it's telling you to change your focus within it, to lift your attention beyond the temporary to something eternal, to stop being consumed by what is constantly changing and start aligning with what doesn't. Set your minds on things above, not on earthly things. This isn't a rejection of reality, it's a redefinition of priority, because what you focus on shapes how you live. If your mind is filled with comparison, pressure, fear, and endless distraction, your life will reflect that. But if your focus shifts to something higher, truth, purpose, identity, clarity, everything begins to change. Not instantly on the outside, but deeply on the inside. And that's where real change begins, because the message goes further. You died and your life is now hidden with Christ. This is not physical death, it's a separation from an old identity, a former way of living, a mindset that was driven by different values. And now, something new exists, a life that is hidden, not obvious to everyone, not defined by what people see on the surface, but real, secure, anchored. And when Christ appears, that life will be revealed fully. This introduces a powerful tension. You are living in the present, but your identity is rooted in something beyond it, and that changes how you respond to everything around you. Because if your identity is not tied to temporary things, then temporary things lose their power over you. This leads to a direct challenge. Put to death what belongs to your earthly nature. And the list is clear. Not to shame, not to condemn, but to identify. Patterns that pull you away from who you are becoming. Old habits, old desires, old reactions. Things that once felt normal, but no longer align with your new identity. Because transformation is not just about adding something new. It's also about letting go of what no longer belongs. And this is where many people struggle, because letting go is not easy. Even when something is unhealthy, it can feel familiar, comfortable, part of who you've always been. But growth requires release. You cannot fully step into something new while holding on to everything old. So the message is clear. Put it off, like taking off old clothes. Anger, rage, malice, slander, false speech. These are not just behaviors. They are expressions of an old way of thinking, an old identity. And then comes the shift. Put on the new self, renewed in knowledge, in the image of the Creator. This is not about becoming someone else, it's about becoming who you were meant to be, restored, aligned, reconnected. And in this new identity, something remarkable happens. Barriers break down. There is no division on background, status, or position. Because identity is no longer based on external labels. It is centered on something deeper, and that creates unity, a shared foundation, a common direction. Then the message becomes even more personal. Clothe yourselves with compassion, kindness, humility, gentleness, patience. These are not random traits. They are intentional choices, ways of interacting, ways of responding, ways of living that reflect the transformation happening inside. Because real change is not just internal. It shows up externally in how you treat others, in how you handle conflict, in how you respond to pressure. And then comes something essential. Bear with each other. Forgive one another. This is where transformation is tested. Because it's easy to talk about change. It's harder to live it when people hurt you, misunderstand you, disappoint you. But forgiveness is not optional in this message. It is central, because you have been forgiven. And that becomes the model. Not based on emotion, but based on understanding. And above all these things, put on love, which binds everything together in perfect unity. Love is not just an addition, it's the foundation that holds everything else in place. Without it, the other qualities don't last, but with it, they connect, they grow, they become consistent. Then comes something that brings stability. Let the peace of Christ rule in your hearts, not just exist. Rule, guide decisions, shape responses, bring clarity in moments of confusion. Because peace is not the absence of problems, it's the presence of something stronger than them. And then gratitude. Be thankful, not occasionally, not when things go well, but as a consistent posture. Because gratitude shifts perspective. It moves attention away from what's missing, to what's present, to what's already given, to what still matters. And then the message expands again. Let the message of Christ dwell among you richly. This is about saturation, not just hearing it once, but allowing it to shape your thinking continuously, teaching, encouraging, speaking truth, sharing insight, creating an environment where growth happens collectively, not just individually. And then everything comes together in one simple but powerful statement. Whatever you do, whether in word or deed, do it all in the name of the Lord. Everything, not just spiritual moments, not just specific actions, everything, daily life, conversations, decisions, work, relationships, all of it, connected, aligned, intentional, and done with awareness. Because when everything is connected to a greater purpose, nothing is meaningless. Even the smallest actions carry weight. Even ordinary moments become significant. And that's the transformation being described. Not a complete removal from the world, but a complete shift within it. A new way of seeing, a new way of thinking, a new way of living. Because when you understand that you have been made alive, you stop living like you're still stuck in the past. You stop defining yourself by what you were. You stop reacting based on old patterns, and you start living from something new, something stronger, something more stable, something that doesn't depend on changing circumstances. And this is where everything connects. Focus, identity, action, they all align. Because what you seek shapes what you think shapes who you become, and who you become shapes how you live. So the question becomes clear. What are you seeking? What is your focus? What is shaping your mind? Because that will shape everything else. And if your focus is set on something higher, then your life will begin to reflect that. Not perfectly, not instantly, but consistently. And that consistency leads to transformation. Real transformation. The kind that doesn't fade. The kind that doesn't depend on circumstances. The kind that continues to grow. Because it is rooted in something unchanging. And that is the invitation. To live as someone who has been made alive. To think differently. To respond differently. To choose differently. Not because you have to, but because you can. Because something new has already begun. Thank you for watching this video. If this message gave you a new perspective on how to live and what to focus on, don't forget to like, follow Holy Path Insights, and share this video so others can grow with you.